Have you ever wondered why some relationships seem to lose their spark as the years go by? Have you ever felt that emotional or physical distance with a partner and didn't know how to bring back the closeness you once shared? The truth is, every relationship faces its own set of challenges, especially as we grow older. But what if those challenges are an opportunity for growth, rather than loss? In today's video, we will dive into the profound, often unspoken journey that couples like Juan and Maria experience as they navigate the complexities of intimacy after 50. This is a story of love, vulnerability, and the incredible strength that comes from facing life's changes together. By the end of this video, you'll discover not only how intimacy can evolve, but also how couples can rekindle the emotional and physical bonds that make their relationships stronger than ever. Stay with us until the end as we share powerful insights that can transform how you approach love and connection in your own life. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. Your support means a lot, so if you find value in this video, please give it a thumbs up to help spread our message. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on today's topic. If you enjoy the content, please comment 1 below. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave a 0. Your feedback is crucial as it helps me create better videos that align with your interests. Now, let's get started. Life is a series of stages, each filled with unique experiences that shape us, challenge us, and ultimately define the people we become. Among these experiences, there are few as profound, deeply personal, and yet as quietly transformative as our relationship with our own sexuality, particularly as we grow older. This is a subject that many shy away from discussing, wrapped in layers of societal expectations, cultural taboos, and personal insecurities. However, it is a part of the human experience that deserves attention, especially after the age of 50, when so much in our lives shifts and we are forced to redefine what it means to live fully and meaningfully. Let's embark together on an emotional journey that delves deep into the heart of this often unspoken transformation, the evolution of intimacy and sexuality in the later stages of life. As we navigate this journey, we'll uncover the subtle and not-so-subtle ways that the absence or reduction of sexual intimacy can affect both men and women. We will confront the often hidden struggles that come with aging, but more importantly, we'll discover the incredible strength that love, understanding, and communication can offer when faced with these challenges. One couple's story stands as a powerful testament to this journey of discovery and transformation: Juan and Maria. Their story is not a rare one, but it is a story that is rarely told. After many years of marriage, filled with love, laughter, and shared memories, they found themselves at a crossroads. As the years passed and their bodies began to change, so did their relationship with intimacy. The physical closeness that had once come so naturally between them started to fade, leaving them both feeling lost and unsure of how to move forward. Yet, this is not a story of loss. This is a story of finding new ways to connect, of rediscovering each other through vulnerability and honest conversation. Juan and Maria's journey is a reminder that love is not static. It evolves just as we do, shaped by the passage of time, the experiences we share, and the obstacles we overcome together. For them, the lack of physical intimacy was not the end of their story, but rather the beginning of a new chapter, one that required patience, openness, and above all, a commitment to nurturing their emotional connection. They learned that while sex might change in its frequency or form, the desire for closeness, for tenderness, and for the emotional bond that intimacy fosters never disappears. As we age, society often tries to convince us that certain parts of life are meant to fade, that desires and needs diminish. But the truth is, our need for intimacy, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, remains as vital as ever. It's just that the way we express and experience that intimacy may change. And in this change, there is immense beauty, growth, and the possibility of deeper connection than we ever imagined. Juan and Maria found that their relationship, though different, became richer as they learned to cherish the moments of emotional intimacy, the quiet conversations, the touch of a hand, and the shared laughter that took on new significance as their lives continued to intertwine. This story is not just about aging and sexuality, it's about what it means to truly love someone through every season of life. It's about the courage it takes to confront the inevitable changes that come with time and to do so with grace, compassion, and understanding. It's about knowing that while our bodies may age, our hearts remain capable of profound love, passion, and connection. And perhaps most importantly, it's about realizing that intimacy is not defined solely by physical acts, but by the emotional depth and closeness we cultivate with those we hold dear. As we continue this journey of reflection and exploration, let's take a moment to honor the complexity of love, the courage required to navigate the changing tides of intimacy, and the strength that comes from facing these challenges head-on. The experience of aging is often framed as a process of loss of youth, vitality, and physical abilities. But what if instead, we saw it as a process of gaining wisdom, perspective, and a deeper appreciation for the connections that truly matter? In Juan and Maria's story, we find a mirror for our own experiences, hopes, and fears. Their journey teaches us that the true essence of intimacy lies not in the fleeting nature of physical attraction, but in the enduring power of emotional closeness and mutual respect. They show us that even in the face of life's most difficult challenges, love can be the guiding light that leads us to new understandings of ourselves and each other. So, as we explore this theme of sexuality after 50, let's do so with open hearts and minds, recognizing that while change is inevitable, it is not something to be feared. Rather, it is an invitation to grow, to deepen our relationships, and to embrace the beautiful complexity of love in all its forms. Aging does not have to mean the end of desire or passion. Instead, it can mark the beginning of a new chapter in which we learn to love more fully, more deeply, and more authentically than ever before. Together, let's celebrate the courage to face these changes, the wisdom to navigate them, and the love that binds us through every phase of life. Sexuality is not just a young person's game. It is a lifelong journey, one that evolves with us, shaping and being shaped by the experiences, emotions, and connections that make us human. In this journey, there is no end, only new beginnings. As men and women transition into their 50s and beyond, one of the most significant, yet often unspoken changes they face is the shift in their sexual health and activity. This stage of life brings about various transformations that not only affect the body but also the mind and emotional well-being. For many, the decline in sexual activity can be deeply unsettling, triggering both physical health concerns and emotional vulnerabilities that are often left unaddressed. The complexities of aging and intimacy are part of a broader conversation that society tends to shy away from, yet it is a reality that profoundly shapes the lives of many people. Today, we're going to explore this topic in greater depth, diving into the intricate ways the lack of sex after 50 can impact both men and women, and how these changes ripple across relationships, self-perception, and overall health. For men, the decline in sexual activity after 50 can be particularly challenging. Physically, the body undergoes changes that can make sexual activity less frequent or more difficult. Testosterone levels, which naturally begin to decrease as men age, play a crucial role not only in sexual desire but in maintaining overall health. A drop in testosterone can result in a loss of muscle mass, increased fatigue, and even difficulty concentrating. But perhaps the most concerning physical aspect of reduced sexual activity is the effect it has on cardiovascular health. Regular sexual activity has been shown to be beneficial for heart health, improving circulation and reducing the risk of heart disease. When sexual activity decreases, these cardiovascular benefits diminish as well, potentially leaving men more vulnerable to heart-related issues. Furthermore, the prostate, a small gland that plays a significant role in male reproductive health, can also be affected by a decrease in sexual activity. Studies have suggested that regular ejaculation may help reduce the risk of prostate-related problems, such as benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, or even prostate cancer. For men over 50, who are already at a higher risk for prostate issues, the reduction in sexual activity can feel like a double-edged sword, where the natural decrease in desire or capability may lead to additional health risks. Beyond the physical, the emotional impact of reduced sexual activity in men can be just as profound, if not more so. For many men, sexual activity is closely tied to their sense of identity and masculinity. As sexual frequency diminishes, Men may begin to question their own virility or feel as though they are losing a part of themselves that was once integral to their self-image. This can lead to feelings of frustration, self-doubt, and even shame. Without the emotional and physical release that comes with regular sexual intimacy, some men might experience a growing sense of isolation or disconnection from their partners. The loss of this intimate bond can exacerbate feelings of loneliness and, in more severe cases, contribute to anxiety or depression. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Sexual intimacy is, after all, more than just a physical act. It is a way to connect deeply with another person, to express love, desire, and vulnerability in a way that words often cannot. For men, the diminishing of this connection can feel like a loss of emotional intimacy, leaving them unsure of how to express these needs in other ways. As a result, some men may withdraw emotionally, leading to further distance between them and their partners. This emotional chasm can sometimes feel insurmountable, especially if communication about these changes is lacking. On the other side of this equation, women also face a host of challenges when it comes to their sexual health and intimacy after 50. One of the most significant changes women experience during this time is menopause, which brings with it a series of hormonal shifts that can have a profound effect on sexual desire and function. As estrogen levels drop, many women find that their interest in sex decreases. This change in libido can feel confusing and disheartening, especially if the emotional desire for intimacy remains but the physical drive is no longer as strong. One of the more common physical symptoms women experience during and after menopause is vaginal dryness, which can make sexual intercourse uncomfortable or even painful. This discomfort can create a cycle where women may begin to avoid sex altogether, not because they lack desire but because the physical act has become too uncomfortable. This can be frustrating, both for the women experiencing it and for their partners, who may not fully understand the extent of the discomfort or how to navigate these new challenges. Additionally, the loss of elasticity in vaginal tissues, another result of decreased estrogen, can further complicate sexual enjoyment. Emotionally, these physical changes can take a heavy toll on a woman's self-esteem. For many women, sexual attractiveness and desirability are closely tied to how they perceive themselves. As their bodies change, some women may feel less confident or worry that they are no longer desirable to their partners. This fear can lead to feelings of inadequacy or insecurity, which, when coupled with the physical challenges of menopause, can create significant emotional distress. Women may begin to pull away from their partners emotionally, afraid of rejection or of confronting the changes they are experiencing. The emotional and psychological effects of these changes can be far-reaching. Just like men, women may experience feelings of loneliness or sadness as their sexual lives change. The intimate bond they once shared with their partner may feel distant, and without open communication, these feelings can fester. Depression and anxiety are not uncommon during this stage of life, particularly when the changes in sexual health are compounded by other aging-related issues such as empty nest syndrome, retirement, or concerns about physical health. However, it is important to emphasize that these challenges, while significant, are not without solutions. The most crucial step in addressing the emotional and physical shifts that come with aging and reduced sexual activity is communication. Couples who openly discuss their feelings, fears, and desires are far more likely to navigate this transition with grace and understanding. Exploring new ways to be intimate, whether through non-sexual touch, shared activities, or emotional closeness, can help maintain the bond that physical intimacy once provided. Additionally, seeking professional help, whether from a doctor, therapist, or sexual health specialist, can provide valuable guidance on managing the physical symptoms of aging and reigniting the emotional connection between partners. While aging undoubtedly brings challenges to our sexual lives, it also offers an opportunity to deepen our emotional connections and explore new dimensions of intimacy. By approaching these changes with openness, patience, and a willingness to adapt, couples can find that their relationships continue to thrive, even as their bodies and sexual needs evolve. Sexuality after 50 is not the end of intimacy but rather a new chapter, one that requires a redefinition of what it means to love and connect with another person on a deeper, more meaningful level. In the context of marriage, the absence of sexual intimacy after the age of 50 can have a profound impact on the emotional and physical dynamics between partners. While many aspects of a relationship evolve naturally with age, the reduction or complete loss of sexual connection can create a complex web of challenges, both visible and beneath the surface. Marriage, at its core, is about connection, not just the companionship of living life together, but the intimate bond that keeps two people emotionally close, despite the inevitable changes life throws at them. As sex becomes less frequent or stops altogether, couples may find themselves grappling with issues they never anticipated, including feelings of emotional isolation, dissatisfaction, and even personal inadequacy. These challenges can ripple through every facet of a relationship, undermining the trust, affection, and companionship that took years to build. Sex, often considered one of the primary pillars of a healthy marriage, serves as more than just a physical act of pleasure. It's a vital expression of love, vulnerability, and connection. As couples age, their bodies change, and so do their sexual needs and desires. But when the natural ebb and flow of sexual intimacy fades into a prolonged absence, the emotional effects can be overwhelming. The physical distance often mirrors an emotional chasm that can slowly grow between partners, where conversations become more routine, and genuine closeness starts to diminish. What was once a source of joy and bonding may now seem like a distant memory, leaving both partners feeling disconnected. For many men, especially after the age of 50, the lack of sex can carry a significant emotional weight. Culturally, men have long been conditioned to view their sexual prowess as a marker of masculinity and vitality. When this aspect of their lives diminishes, it can trigger deep feelings of inadequacy, leading to frustration and even resentment. These emotions, if left unaddressed, can fester, and men may retreat emotionally, distancing themselves from their partners not because they don't care, but because they feel powerless in reclaiming that part of their identity. This sense of helplessness can lead to a breakdown in communication, where men may feel too embarrassed or ashamed to express their concerns, further isolating themselves from the intimacy they long for. The physical absence of sex also carries psychological implications. The lack of touch, affection, and closeness may lead some men to experience a drop in self-esteem, where they begin to question their desirability or worth within the relationship. This emotional burden can weigh heavily on a marriage, where one partner feels lost in their own internal struggles while the other may be left wondering what went wrong. Over time, this emotional disconnection can create an environment where both partners live side by side but feel as though they are drifting further apart. Women, too, face their own set of challenges in navigating the changing landscape of sexual intimacy after 50. For many women, menopause introduces a host of physical changes that can affect their sexual health and desire. Decreased estrogen levels can lead to vaginal dryness and discomfort during intercourse, making sex less enjoyable or even painful. This physical barrier can make women less inclined to engage in sexual activity, not because they lack the emotional desire for connection, but because their bodies no longer respond in the way they used to. This shift can be deeply frustrating and can leave women feeling less confident in their sexual identity and attractiveness. The decline in libido that many women experience during and after menopause can also impact their emotional well-being. Much like men, women may begin to feel disconnected from their partners, wondering if they can still maintain the same level of intimacy that once brought them so much closeness. The fear of being seen as less desirable or the anxiety of not meeting their partner's needs can create a cycle of self-doubt and insecurity. These emotional struggles can further exacerbate the physical challenges of intimacy, leaving women in a vulnerable state where their self-worth is intricately tied to their changing bodies. In many cases, the lack of sexual fulfillment within a marriage can lead to significant emotional strain. The absence of sex often means the absence of physical touch, which is a crucial element of emotional bonding. Even small gestures, such as holding hands or cuddling, can begin to fade, leaving both partners starved for affection. This lack of physical connection can intensify feelings of loneliness, even when two people continue to share the same living space. When emotional and physical needs go unmet, it's not uncommon for resentment to build, turning what was once a loving partnership into a relationship filled with tension and distance. One of the more alarming potential outcomes of this lack of intimacy is the temptation to seek fulfillment outside the marriage. When partners feel emotionally or physically neglected, they may start to look elsewhere for the validation and closeness that they are missing. Infidelity often arises not out of a lack of love, but out of a longing for connection. The risk of extramarital affairs becomes more pronounced when there is a breakdown in communication between partners about their needs and desires. Even the suspicion or fear of infidelity can erode the foundation of trust within a marriage, creating emotional wounds that are difficult to heal. However, despite the many challenges that can arise from the lack of sexual intimacy after 50, it's important to recognize that this does not have to signal the end of a marriage or the end of sexual satisfaction within the relationship. It's never too late to reignite the spark or to redefine what intimacy means in a marriage as both partners age. In fact, the transition to a new phase of life can be an opportunity for couples to explore new ways to connect emotionally and physically, embracing the changes rather than resisting them. The key to overcoming the difficulties of this phase is open and honest communication. Many couples avoid discussing the topic of sex, either out of embarrassment or fear of rejection. But without dialogue, the emotional distance between partners only grows. By sharing their feelings, concerns, and desires, couples can begin to bridge the gap that has developed and find ways to support each other through the changes they are experiencing. This might involve exploring different forms of intimacy that don't revolve around intercourse, such as touch, massage, or simply spending more quality time together. Rediscovering emotional intimacy can often be the first step in restoring the physical connection that has been lost. Additionally, seeking help from a therapist or a sexual health specialist can provide couples with the tools and knowledge they need to navigate this complex stage of life. Professionals can offer valuable insights into the emotional and physical changes both men and women face as they age, as well as strategies to maintain a healthy and fulfilling sex life. Many couples find that with the right guidance, they are able to reconnect and rediscover the joy of intimacy, even as their bodies continue to change. Ultimately, while the absence of sex after 50 can present significant challenges in a marriage, it does not have to define the relationship. With patience, communication, and a willingness to adapt, couples can continue to cultivate a deep and meaningful connection, one that goes beyond physical intimacy and encompasses the emotional closeness that sustains a relationship through every phase of life. The journey of love and partnership is not static, but ever-evolving, and it is in navigating these changes together that couples can truly strengthen the bond they share. In the landscape of marriage, especially after the age of 50, there is a delicate but profound shift in the way intimacy is experienced. What once may have been a natural and spontaneous aspect of the relationship, sexual connection, can gradually fade into the background, replaced by the demands of life, aging bodies, and shifting emotional needs. Yet, for many couples, the quiet disappearance of sexual intimacy carries with it far-reaching implications. As we grow older, our lives become rich with memories and shared experiences, but the loss of physical closeness can leave a void that, if left unaddressed, can deeply impact the bond between partners. Let's imagine for a moment what this scenario might look like. For decades, you and your spouse have built a life together. Through the excitement of early love, the trials and joys of raising a family, the shared adventures, and the intimate moments that strengthened your connection. Sex was once a natural and fulfilling part of your relationship, a way to express love, affection, and mutual desire. But somewhere along the way, things began to change. Perhaps it started slowly, less energy after long days at work, health challenges, or simply the natural decrease in libido that comes with age. What once felt like an effortless form of connection became less frequent, until one day you realized that weeks, months, or even longer had passed without the intimacy you once shared. For many couples, this realization brings with it a sense of unease. It's not just about sex, it's about the emotional closeness that comes with it. The act of being physically intimate with your partner is often symbolic of something much deeper, a shared vulnerability, a bond that goes beyond words, and a way to reinforce the love that forms the foundation of the relationship. When this disappears, it can leave both partners feeling disconnected, confused, and uncertain about how to move forward. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. For men, this loss of intimacy can be especially difficult. Societal expectations often tie masculinity and virility together, leading men to feel as though their worth, both as a partner and as an individual, is closely linked to their sexual performance. When sexual activity declines, it's not uncommon for men to struggle with feelings of inadequacy or failure. They may question their desirability or fear that they're no longer capable of providing for their partner in the way they once did. These emotions can spiral into frustration, shame, or even depression, leading some men to withdraw emotionally. What often happens in these situations is a breakdown in communication. Rather than discussing their fears or insecurities, men may remain silent, convinced that talking about it will make things worse or expose them as vulnerable. This silence can be devastating for a relationship. Without open communication, the emotional distance grows. Men might internalize their feelings, assuming their partner has lost interest in them altogether, while women might feel abandoned, confused as to why their partner no longer seems engaged or affectionate. This unspoken tension creates an invisible barrier between the couple, one that may feel increasingly difficult to overcome. Women, too, face unique challenges when it comes to the loss of sexual intimacy. As they enter menopause, many women experience significant changes in their bodies that can affect their sexual desire. A decrease in estrogen levels can lead to symptoms like vaginal dryness, hot flashes, and fatigue, all of which can make sex less appealing or even painful. For some women, the physical discomfort becomes so overwhelming that they begin to avoid intimacy altogether. This can be emotionally challenging. While the desire for closeness may remain, the body no longer responds in the same way, leading to feelings of frustration and helplessness. Beyond the physical symptoms, the emotional toll of these changes can be just as profound. Many women begin to question their attractiveness as they age, wondering if their partner still finds them desirable. This can lead to a decline in self-esteem and a fear that they are losing a part of their identity that was once tied to their youth and vitality. Without the reassurance of physical intimacy, these insecurities can deepen, making women feel even more disconnected from their partner. In both men and women, the loss of sexual intimacy can lead to a cascade of emotional effects: loneliness, anxiety, sadness, and even a sense of grief for the relationship they once had. Even couples who have a strong emotional bond may find themselves drifting apart, wondering how to navigate this new phase of life without losing the connection they've spent years building. But it's important to remember that while the physical aspects of a relationship may change with age, intimacy itself does not have to disappear. In fact, this period of life can offer couples a unique opportunity to redefine what intimacy means to them. The loss of frequent sexual activity does not have to signal the end of closeness. Instead, it can be the beginning of a deeper, more meaningful connection. The first step in rebuilding intimacy is communication. It may sound simple, but for many couples, talking about sex and intimacy, especially after 50, is far from easy. These conversations require vulnerability and a willingness to be honest about both physical and emotional needs. It's about creating a space where both partners feel safe to express their fears, desires, and concerns without judgment. For some couples, this may involve talking openly about the physical changes that have made sex difficult or less enjoyable. Exploring solutions together, such as hormone replacement therapy, lubricants, or even just finding new ways to be physically close, can make a world of difference. Intimacy isn't confined to intercourse. It can be found in touch, in shared moments of affection, and in simply being present with one another. Beyond the physical, emotional intimacy can be rekindled by spending quality time together in ways that nurture the relationship. As life slows down in the later years, couples have the chance to rediscover each other, whether through new hobbies, meaningful conversations, or simply taking the time to enjoy each other's company without the distractions of work or raising children. These moments can serve as a reminder of the love and connection that has always been at the heart of the relationship, even if the ways it is expressed have evolved over time. It's also important for couples to prioritize their own well-being as individuals. Maintaining physical health through regular exercise, a balanced diet, and stress management techniques can improve energy levels and overall mood, making it easier to engage in both emotional and physical intimacy. Caring for mental health is just as crucial, whether through therapy, meditation, or simply taking time for self-reflection. When both partners feel good about themselves, they're more likely to feel confident and open in their relationship. And while it may feel like the loss of sexual intimacy marks a permanent shift in the relationship, it's crucial to remember that it's never too late to reignite the spark. Many couples find that by addressing the underlying issues, whether physical, emotional, or relational, they can reconnect in ways that bring new excitement and closeness to their marriage. It's about adapting to the changes, not resisting them, and finding new ways to experience pleasure and connection. In conclusion, the lack of sexual intimacy after 50 can undoubtedly create challenges in a marriage, but it doesn't have to define the relationship. With open communication, a willingness to explore new forms of intimacy, and a commitment to both personal and relational growth, couples can continue to build a strong, fulfilling connection well into their later years. Intimacy is about more than just sex. It's about love, trust, respect, and the emotional closeness that binds two people together through every phase of life. Now, as we step into the heart of today's story, we meet Juan and Maria, a couple who, like many of you, have spent years building a life filled with love, laughter, and challenges. They've navigated the highs and lows of marriage, and now, as they enter this new stage of life, they face the question that so many couples do. How do we keep the flame of intimacy alive, even as our bodies and desires change? Their journey is one of hope, patience, and the enduring power of love, a story that reminds us that while life may change, the heart of a relationship can remain strong and full of joy. Let's dive in. Juan and Maria, two souls bound by decades of shared memories and love, found themselves standing at the edge of a new chapter in life. As the years rolled by and Juan and Maria approached their 50s, subtle but undeniable shifts began to take place in their once vibrant and passionate relationship. The intimate connection that had always been an unspoken language between them was changing, and neither of them could quite pinpoint when or how it had started. At first, they each hoped these changes were temporary, a fleeting phase brought on by the natural stresses of work, life, and the demands of a long marriage. But as time passed, the reality became harder to ignore, and with it came a growing sense of concern about the future of their intimacy. Juan, a man known for his passionate spirit and relentless work ethic, found himself facing something that left him feeling vulnerable in ways he hadn't anticipated. His once steady libido, which had always been a source of energy and confidence, began to wane. What used to come naturally now seemed elusive, and with each passing encounter, maintaining an erection became increasingly difficult. At first, Juan tried to brush these moments aside, attributing them to long hours at work, stress, and the simple exhaustion that came with life. After all, he reasoned, everyone has off days, and surely this was just one of those moments. But as weeks turned into months, and the problem persisted, Juan began to realize that what he was experiencing wasn't just a passing phase. His frustration grew. He felt as though his body was betraying him, and the confidence that had always defined his approach to life and love was starting to crumble. In quiet moments, when he was alone with his thoughts, a creeping worry took hold. What if this was permanent? What if he could no longer satisfy Maria the way he once had? The weight of these thoughts was heavy, and in his silence, they began to build into a storm of anxiety that threatened his sense of self. Meanwhile, Maria, a woman who had always embodied strength, compassion, and patience, was facing her own internal struggles. Like many women, Maria had entered menopause, and with it came a cascade of hormonal changes that altered her experience of intimacy. Her libido, once in sync with Juan's, was no longer as strong. The natural lubrication that had once made their intimate moments effortless now felt absent, leaving her physically uncomfortable during sex. What should have been moments of closeness with Juan now sometimes felt more like a challenge, and Maria found herself dreading intimacy rather than looking forward to it. Despite her love for Juan, these changes weighed heavily on Maria's mind. She began to feel insecure, questioning not only her desirability but also the future of their relationship. Was this just a normal part of aging, Or was something deeper shifting between them? The woman who had always faced life's challenges with grace now found herself battling a silent fear that the passionate relationship they had built over decades might be slipping away. She worried that Juan would see her differently, that her changing body might no longer satisfy him, or that the loss of their physical closeness would slowly drive a wedge between them. The emotional distance between them grew gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. They still loved each other deeply, but that love was now marked by a quiet undercurrent of discomfort. Conversations about intimacy became rare, replaced instead by routines, polite exchanges, and the day-to-day motions of life. In the quiet of their bedroom, where they once shared not only their bodies but their dreams and desires, there was now an unspoken tension. Both Juan and Maria felt it, this new, uncomfortable space that neither of them knew how to navigate. Juan's frustration with his own body made him hesitant to initiate sex. He worried about failing Maria, about the embarrassment of not being able to perform as he once did. Each time he thought about it, the pressure mounted, and the idea of intimacy became more daunting than desirable. His solution, though not intentional, was to withdraw emotionally, hoping to avoid the issue altogether. He threw himself deeper into work, into hobbies, into anything that would keep his mind off the gnawing anxiety about his fading sexual prowess. Maria, on the other hand, interpreted Juan's withdrawal differently. She saw his lack of interest in sex as a reflection of her own insecurities. Was she no longer attractive to him? Had the changes in her body pushed him away? These doubts circled in her mind, growing stronger with each night they spent apart, even while lying next to each other in bed. The physical distance translated into emotional distance, and soon, conversations became shorter, filled with awkward silences where there had once been laughter and shared intimacy. The once fiery and passionate relationship they had enjoyed for so long was slowly evolving into something that neither of them wanted, one marked by distance, discomfort, and unspoken fears. Both Juan and Maria felt alone in their struggle, unsure of how to bring up the topic without causing hurt or further distancing themselves from one another. The spark that had once lit up their relationship was flickering, and neither of them knew how to fan it back into a flame. Yet, beneath all the fear, frustration, and sadness, there was still love, a deep, abiding love that had carried them through so many of life's challenges. And while they were facing one of their most personal and difficult struggles, that love would ultimately become their lifeline. They were on the cusp of a choice, to let their intimacy fade into memory or to confront these challenges together, with honesty, vulnerability, and a shared commitment to rediscovering the connection that had once been the heart of their relationship. The journey ahead would not be easy. It would require them to have difficult conversations, to face their insecurities head-on, and to embrace the changes that aging had brought into their lives. But as they stood at this crossroads, the choice was clear: to fight for the intimacy they had once shared or to risk losing it forever. What Juan and Maria didn't yet realize was that this challenge, like so many they had faced before, could become an opportunity, a chance to rebuild their relationship in a way that was even deeper and more meaningful than before. They would learn that intimacy isn't just about sex. It's about emotional connection, vulnerability, and being willing to adapt and grow together through every stage of life. And so, with that unspoken promise of love still guiding them, Juan and Maria prepared to face the road ahead, not as individuals carrying their burdens in silence, but as partners, ready to rediscover the closeness that had once been the bedrock of their marriage. However, instead of letting their fears and frustrations continue to drive them apart, Juan and Maria made a courageous decision. They chose to face the challenge head-on, together. Rather than giving in to the quiet resignation that so often accompanies the struggles of aging and intimacy, they decided their relationship, and their love, was worth fighting for. It was a difficult choice, one that required vulnerability, patience, and an openness they hadn't experienced in years. But deep down, they both knew that they had too much history, too much love, to simply give up. It all began one evening, after yet another day of emotional distance, when one finally mustered the courage to speak up. His voice was tentative, but the sincerity in his words cut through the tension that had been building between them. "Maria," he began, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything that's been happening. I know things haven't been the same for a while, and I don't want us to keep drifting apart." His honesty broke the silence, and for the first time in a long time, they both felt the weight of what had been left unsaid. If you are still watching this video, and find these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Maria, who had been quietly wrestling with her own insecurities, listened intently, her heart heavy but hopeful. She could hear the pain in Juan's voice, and it mirrored the feeling she had been holding in for so long. In that moment, something shifted between them, the realization that neither of them wanted to continue living in the shadow of their fears. Maria took a deep breath, and with a gentle but determined voice, she responded, "I feel the same, Juan. I've been so worried about what's happening to us, but I didn't know how to talk about it. I don't want to lose what we have either." And so, that evening, they began an honest and heartfelt conversation, one they had both been avoiding for far too long. They talked about their sexual concerns, their desires, and the fears that had kept them from being open with one another. Juan shared his frustrations with his libido and the difficulty he had been experiencing with his erections, admitting how much it had affected his self-esteem. Maria, in turn, opened up about the changes menopause had brought to her body and how it had impacted her desire for sex, explaining the discomfort she felt and her fear that Juan no longer found her attractive. As they spoke, they realized just how much they had both been suffering in silence, each afraid that the other would no longer love or desire them. But through that conversation, something beautiful began to emerge, a sense of relief, of mutual understanding, and of shared purpose. They weren't alone in this struggle, they were in it together. With newfound clarity, Juan and Maria decided to take proactive steps to rekindle their intimacy, starting with a commitment to explore new ways of connecting. They both acknowledged that their bodies were changing, and that their sexual life didn't have to look the same as it once had. Instead of focusing on what they had lost, they made a conscious decision to embrace the possibilities of what their relationship could become. They began by experimenting with longer foreplay, recognizing that intimacy could be found in the slow, deliberate build-up of desire. Rather than rushing through the motions, they took their time to rediscover each other's bodies, exploring with touch, words, and shared experiences that brought them closer than they had been in years. Sensual massages became a regular part of their routine, creating a space where they could relax, enjoy each other's presence, and reignite the physical connection that had begun to fade. They even ventured into trying sex toys, something they had never considered before but now saw as an exciting way to bring a new element of pleasure and playfulness into their relationship. But their journey didn't stop at the bedroom. Recognizing that emotional intimacy was just as important as the physical, Juan and Maria decided to seek professional help. They consulted a sex therapist, a decision that marked a turning point in their relationship. The therapist provided them with tools and techniques to improve their communication, both in and out of the bedroom. They learned how to talk about their desires and needs without fear of judgment, creating an open dialogue that fostered trust and vulnerability. The therapist also helped them understand that their struggles were not unusual or insurmountable, that many couples faced similar challenges, and that with time and effort, they could rebuild the sexual connection they had thought was lost. Through therapy, they began to let go of the unrealistic expectations they had placed on themselves. They realized that intimacy wasn't about perfection, it was about connection, about being present with one another and embracing the moments of closeness, whether those moments led to sex or not. The pressure to perform or meet certain standards began to dissolve, replaced by a focus on enjoying each other's company, on laughing together, on touching and holding each other simply for the pleasure of being close. Gradually, the tension that had built up over months began to ease. The distance that had once seemed insurmountable was bridged by their mutual willingness to face their fears and work together. Their bedroom became a space of exploration, of intimacy that was no longer defined solely by intercourse, but by the variety of ways they found to express their love and desire for one another. They rediscovered the joy of kissing, of whispering sweet nothings, of lying in each other's arms without the pressure of expectation. These moments, though simple, became the foundation of a renewed closeness. In time, their sexual life improved in ways they hadn't imagined. The pressure Juan had felt around his performance began to fade, and his confidence slowly returned. Maria, too, found that by focusing on emotional connection and taking her time, she could enjoy intimacy without the discomfort that had previously held her back. Together, they discovered that pleasure could be found in so many different forms, and that sex was just one piece of a much larger puzzle of intimacy. Their relationship, which had once felt like it was slipping away, became stronger than ever. They had faced one of the most difficult challenges of their marriage, but instead of letting it tear them apart, they had grown closer, more in tune with one another's needs and desires. The emotional bond they had shared in the early years of their marriage returned, not just because of their renewed sexual connection, but because they had learned how to communicate and support each other in a deeper way. Juan and Maria's story is a testament to the power of communication, patience, and the willingness to explore new possibilities in a relationship. Their journey wasn't easy, but by facing their challenges together, they rediscovered not only their sexual connection, but also the love and closeness that had always been at the heart of their marriage. Through honesty, vulnerability, and a shared commitment to growth, they proved that it is never too late to reignite the spark of intimacy and to build a relationship that is stronger, deeper, and more fulfilling than ever before. As the years rolled by, Juan and Maria, like many couples approaching their 50s, began to notice subtle shifts in their once effortless intimacy. What had once been a natural expression of their love and closeness, their physical relationship, began to feel more distant and difficult. Life had been full of challenges, triumphs, and shared experiences. But now, standing at the threshold of a new phase in their lives, they found themselves confronted with a quiet, but undeniable, reality of how aging had started to affect their connection. For Juan, a man who had always been full of passion and energy, the changes he felt in his body took him by surprise. He was used to working long hours and being the pillar of strength for his family. But over time, he started noticing a decline in his sexual desire. His libido, which had once been a source of vitality and confidence, began to diminish, and with it came the unwelcome challenge of maintaining an erection. At first, Juan told himself that it was just stress or fatigue, an unavoidable side effect of the pressures of work and life. But as time passed, he could no longer deny that something deeper was changing. The sense of frustration grew within him, and the more he tried to ignore it, the more it weighed on his mind. What worried him most was how this would affect his relationship with Maria. How could he explain to her the changes he was experiencing without feeling like he was letting her down? Meanwhile, Maria was dealing with her own set of challenges. Having entered menopause, she was confronted with the hormonal shifts that so many women face at this stage of life. Her body no longer responded to intimacy the way it used to, and she found herself struggling with vaginal dryness and a lack of desire. While she still felt a deep love for Juan, the physical side of their relationship had become more difficult, leaving her feeling self-conscious and unsure of herself. Was this just the natural course of aging, or was there something more to the distance she felt between them? Maria couldn't shake the feeling that their relationship was slipping away, and the thought of losing the closeness they had shared for so many years weighed heavily on her heart. As the weeks and months passed, the emotional and physical distance between them grew. What had once been an intimate and passionate relationship was slowly turning into a partnership marked by awkwardness and discomfort. They still shared the same bed, but it no longer felt like the sanctuary it once had. Each night, they lay side by side, their thoughts swirling with unspoken fears and unaddressed concerns. Both Juan and Maria felt increasingly isolated in their struggles, each afraid to open up to the other about what was happening. The silence between them became a barrier, a wall built by their shared anxieties about aging, desire, and love. But despite this growing divide, something remained, the deep, abiding love that had seen them through decades of life's challenges. And it was this love that eventually brought them back to each other. One evening, after yet another night of silence, Juan sat at the kitchen table, staring into his cup of coffee, feeling the weight of everything they weren't saying. The silence had gone on long enough. He loved Maria too much to let this distance destroy what they had built together. Gathering his courage, he decided it was time to speak up. "Maria," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I think we need to talk. About us. About everything." Maria, who had been sitting quietly across from him, looked up. She had been waiting for this moment too, feeling the same weight of silence pressing down on her. She nodded, her eyes meeting his, and for the first time in months, they both felt a glimmer of hope. They were finally going to talk about what had been unspoken for so long. That night, they sat together and had the kind of conversation that required deep honesty and vulnerability. One confessed how difficult it had been for him to cope with the changes in his body, how he felt as though he was no longer the man Maria had fallen in love with. He opened up about his frustrations, his fears of not being able to meet her needs, and the shame he felt about his diminishing libido. It wasn't easy for him to admit these things, but as the words came out, he felt a weight lifting from his chest. Maria listened, her heart aching for him, because she had been feeling much the same. She shared her own struggles with menopause, how the changes in her body had made intimacy more challenging and less enjoyable. She admitted that she had been feeling insecure, worried that Juan no longer found her attractive, and that the physical distance between them had left her feeling emotionally distant as well. As they talked, they realized that their problems weren't rooted in a lack of love or desire, but in the fears they hadn't shared with each other. Through that conversation, they reached a turning point. They understood that what they were going through was not unusual, and it certainly wasn't the end of their relationship. It was simply a new challenge, one they could face together, as they always had. The first step in rebuilding their intimacy was acknowledging the changes they were both experiencing and accepting that their sexual relationship would need to evolve. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. From that moment on, Juan and Maria made a conscious effort to rediscover the connection that had always been the heart of their relationship. They knew that intimacy didn't have to be defined by sex alone. It could take many forms, all of which were just as meaningful. They began to explore new ways to be close to one another, finding pleasure in the little things, holding hands during a walk, sharing quiet moments in the morning, and simply enjoying each other's presence without the pressure of performance. They also decided to explore new forms of physical intimacy. Understanding that their bodies were changing, they shifted their focus from traditional sex to activities that brought them closer emotionally and physically. Longer foreplay became a way to slowly build anticipation and pleasure, while sensual massages allowed them to connect through touch without any expectations. They experimented with new ways to feel pleasure, including the use of sex toys, which added a sense of playfulness and curiosity to their relationship. These experiences brought them closer, not just physically but emotionally, helping them rediscover the joy and excitement they had once shared. In addition to their own efforts, Juan and Maria sought professional help by consulting a sex therapist. This decision marked a significant step forward for them, as it allowed them to openly discuss their concerns in a safe, supportive environment. The therapist helped them improve their communication, teaching them how to talk about their desires and fears without judgment. Through therapy, they learned that their struggles were normal and that many couples faced similar challenges as they aged. With the therapist's guidance, they found new tools and techniques to rekindle their sexual connection and to address the emotional barriers that had built up between them. Slowly but surely, the intimacy between Juan and Maria began to return. The physical closeness that had once felt so difficult became natural again, but it wasn't just about the act of sex. It was about the emotional connection they had reestablished. The vulnerability they had shared during their conversations and therapy sessions deepened their bond, reminding them of the love that had always been the foundation of their relationship. They discovered that passion and pleasure weren't reserved for youth alone. With communication, love, and a willingness to adapt, they found that their sexual life could be just as fulfilling, if not more so, in this new phase of life. They no longer viewed aging as a barrier to intimacy, but as an opportunity to explore new depths of connection. The spark they thought they had lost was reignited, burning brighter than before, fueled by the understanding and trust they had cultivated together. In the end, Juan and Maria's journey was not just about rediscovering their sexual relationship, it was about rediscovering each other. They learned that true intimacy wasn't defined by any single act, but by the love, patience, and commitment they shared. They proved to themselves, and to each other, that even in the face of life's inevitable changes, their love could grow stronger, more resilient, and more profound. And so, my dear friends, we've come to the end of today's story. I hope that Juan and Maria's journey has resonated with you in some way, whether you are navigating similar challenges or simply reflecting on the importance of communication and connection in relationships. Their story reminds us that it's never too late to reignite the spark of intimacy, and that love, true, enduring love, can overcome any obstacle. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's reflection. Have you experienced or witnessed similar changes in a relationship? What are your thoughts on the importance of maintaining intimacy, both physical and emotional, after the age of 50? Please feel free to share your reflections and experiences in the comments below. Your stories are what make this community so special, and together, we can continue to support and learn from one another. And now that we've come to the end of this heartfelt journey, I hope Juan and Maria's story has inspired you to reflect on your own relationships and the importance of maintaining both emotional and physical intimacy. What have you learned from their experience? I'd love for you to share in the comments below one thing you've learned from this video and how you'll apply it to your own life. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful stories and advice that can help you build deeper connections with those you love.